Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show with your host, Phil Tarrant.
Okay, everyone, how you going? Thanks for joining us on the podcast today. Bit of a back in time. Just looking through the website and looking at when we started doing our first podcast, and I have a guest back in the studio who was one of our originals back in June 2016, which is nearly 3 years on. So sort of made me pitch myself and say, wow, we've been doing this thing for 3 years now. But it's obviously working because it's just grown exponentially since we kicked off with this thing, from a humble, small podcast with a couple of hundred listens to now, multiple tens and tens and tens and tens and tens and thousands of people listen to it every single month. So I really get a kick out of the fact that it's grown so quickly, but it goes to show that I think Australian property investors are getting a lot smarter in the way in which they look to buy property, create wealth through property, and education is key, and that's very much what we're all about here. So helping you sort of understand how other people see the world, sharing their stories as they navigate property and property investment. And 3 years on, a lot of the stuff we say today is just as relevant as what it was 3 years ago, but things have changed as well. And we've had a lot of uncertainty recently in terms of a federal election, pending government changes, and we all now know that that's not happening. So property investors can march on with a fair bit of confidence. Lending seems to be getting a little bit easier in rhetoric, whether or not that's transitioning down into borrowers, but there is the banks are starting to soften some of their serviceability criteria. So things should look up. Whether or not we're going to get a booming housing market, no one knows, and it's not my business to say so. I'm just here to have a chat with people and actually work out what they're doing. And in studio today, who is back from June 16th, go and check it out, smartpropertyinvestment.com.au, Joe Vadillo. Joe, how are you going? Are you well?
I'm really well. Thanks for having me back.
What's been going on the last 3 years?
Cast our minds back 3 years.
Cast our minds, because when I sort of said g'day, and I went, oh yeah, it's like I always get this sort of serendipitous moment of going, we've spoken before, but I try and place it somewhere. And
you pretend you know.
Pretend I know. I'm actually pretty good at doing that. But it's cool. I'm really happy that we've reconnected because, number one, you're back, so you're still investing in property. That's a good thing. I hope so. Well, I'm sure we'll get down to that today. And, you haven't sort of rocked up here with sort of holes in your jeans and looking
took an hour off doing my Uber drive.
Yeah. So that's all cool. So 3 years on. Well, let's go back to when we first got together. I remember we spoke about responsibilities of financial literacy and education. It was a big thing that we spoke about. We also spoke about your journey investing in property. So let's just recap on that.
Sure.
When did you start, and why did you start?
Why did I start? Because it was so tangible and I can do stuff to it to make more money out of it. So that to me was just, I worked full time. It was probably 17 years ago. It was my first investment property. And at the time I had to hustle like hell to get it because I was on my own. I had a boyfriend at the time who's now my husband, but I did this on my own. I was kind of proud of that myself at the time. And I'd go to all these open inspections, and the amount of agents that would look at him and ask him what his budget was, and I'm jumping up and down, all 5'1" of myself going, hey, I'm the one with the money. So I was, I actually did it on my own. And then I just added value, got the equity, did it again, and just kept building my portfolio. I guess as a substitute income and something to fall back on when I was working full time. And it was actually the catalyst or the turning point for me was that my friends and family kept asking for help and support. And I loved doing that, but it was all pro bono. And after I had my second son, I retrained and became a buyer's agent. Okay. And that was the beginning of,
And thinking back to our chat nearly 3 years ago, we spoke a fair bit by memory around your passion for financial literacy and also empowering the females as part of this game who are out there buying property. Based on your experience, it just sparked that memory of this assumption that if a couple is buying property, that it's the man with the money, right?
Yes.
And I know you've done a lot of work in this regard. So how's that sort of shaping up for you? Is that still a key focus?
Oh, look, more than ever, because in 2015 I also became the director of Property Women, which is a national education platform for women looking to invest in property, whether it is just, buying and adding value to it, renovating, subdividing, just running an Airbnb business. But I am seeing a changing force in the marketplace, and women are really holding their own. One of the biggest, I think it's a percentage-wise, single women are one of the biggest applicants for loans, if I'm correct in the numbers I've been told. I'm also seeing a lot more agents being savvy to the fact that and this is probably just as sexist as, the agent that looked at my husband at the time, and asked him about how big his budget was. Now I'm seeing agents recognise that women are often the buying power when it comes to selling a house. They're the ones that will emotionally fall in love with it. Not so good if you're investing, but really good if it's as an owner-occupier.
Okay. So your journey through property then, it's been going on for a little while. Well, just can you give me some sort of, I don't really want to get into numbers and stuff, but some sort of visibility about sort of the size, number of properties in your portfolio, or sort of the asset base that you're managing?
Yes, certainly. I'm doing a mental count. I've got five houses, and I've got 3 unencumbered blocks of land, which I've got DA approvals to build on at the moment.
Okay.
And last year I did sell that first property that I bought all those years ago, and I sold it just as the Sydney market started to go on a little bit on the quiet. So my timing was good. I got out before the fire hit. But I had to sell that because I could see where I could put that money into other areas, and also in the business to help grow that as well.
Has your passion for property waned at all over the last sort of 3 years since we got together, or is it, you're never always 100%? Sometimes you're more on it than not. Is like property market cyclical, or you just love property more today than what you did when we last got together?
It shifts.
How has your relationship with property changed, I guess, is the answer. Yeah.
When I started out, I was obsessed with the idea of renovating, adding value, and then using that equity. I did a renovation October last year, would have been my 10th or 11th renovation, and I want to hang up those boots.
Done.
Not that, look, you know what, I project manage it. I don't get dirty. Well, you do because you're on the renovation site, but I don't actually do any of the labour. But, look, I think that would be... It's one of those things, it's like having a baby and then you go back and do it again. You're like, why am I doing this again? I will probably do another renovation. I'll never say never. But at the moment, I think my love affair with that side of the things has dropped off. But I'm always talking to people who inspire me as well. And some of those are my clients and some of the women that we educate. They just do some really savvy, amazing things, and they keep my spark of interest alive as well.
And do you identify yourself as being a property investor? People go, well, I'm a property investor. Is that like is this sort of part of the makeup of you, or the how people sort of would perceive you?
I would say so. Yeah, no, certainly. I think I talk about it a lot. I probably bore people with it. I certainly identify as being a property investor, and I'm always curious about, what do they do? What do they make from it? I'll go and jump on RP data and suss out things as well. I've always got my finger in the pie in some description than others. So
if I did a sort of a quick vox pop with a whole bunch of people and you weren't in the room, and I said, Jo reckons she identifies with being a property investor. What sort of property investor is she? What would they say?
Oh, good question. Maybe, I'd like to think of me as being kind of a savvy one, just thinking outside the square and seeing different ways that you can make the deals work for you. So in the last 3 years, I did rent vest. Okay. So I did leave our family home and I did rent in the same area in a larger house, and made the decision on the back of the market changes and other bits and pieces. We did move back into that property, which I renovated before I moved back into. And I could just see that there was options there. I was trying to see if I could pull that house down and build it. Was it worth it? So I'm always looking at different things, and I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. So I've bought with my super fund. I'm doing the DAs. I'm doing the new builds. All these different areas and aspects of property I'm exploring still, and always wanting to learn.
So that same group of people, if I was to chat with them, and they say brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room, right? So this is their perception of what people have of you. You like to think they think you're a savvy property investor, but if I asked them, what's Jo's strategy? Do you reckon they could crystallise it really easily?
Probably not.
Why is that?
Because I oscillate and I change.
Yeah.
And
you evolve. You don't oscillate,
I
evolve. Oscillations have got a bit more of a negative connotation. It's more of an evolution.
Evolution, I like that better. Let's roll with that.
Yeah.
I change. I think when I started out, it was all buy and hold, and it was all a bit safe. And I feel like now my level of ability to face risk and turn deals around or sell because the market's hot, not be scared to do that, not be scared to jump in when the market's not hot. That's when the opportunities exist. So I'm definitely I'm a flexible investor. I don't know, flexible in terms of what I'm willing to take on board.
But I think that's reasonable, and you've probably earned the right to be an evolving investor, because a lot of people kick off, and I'm not in the business of giving people advice or recommendations, but I would say a buy and hold, safe buy and hold strategy for your first couple of properties is probably the right thing to do, right? You don't want to get straight into the middle of things as your first investment, buying some development block and having to sit on it for years while you're trying to get DAs done. Like, that's hard work, right? You need to actually have some experience and probably more so scar tissue to be able to take on those sort of projects. So experience gives you the right to be an evolving investor. But I think where a lot of people go wrong is that they try and move too quickly, or they take the wrong advice and go down a particular path which isn't beneficial for them at that point in time. Now, maybe in the future it might be, but straight away. So what was it, do you think, for you when you went, okay, we've got this sort of meat and potatoes, buy and hold type stuff, where you went, I'm going to start pushing the boat out a little bit? Was it a catalyst at all? Was it just an organic sort of shift, do you think?
I think it was having the confidence to do it and experience. So precisely what you said, those years of buy and hold and being a little bit safe and learning, but also seeing the money that people were making when they were making really savvy business decisions. And having that confidence to do that, to be able to, I guess, turn deals around more, as opposed to I'm just going to have this enormous nest egg. I guess another thing about moving on from property and knowing when the right time is to sell is also knowing if I can get that money and then put it into another deal, how much more can I get? Or do I want to leave it into the existing property and sit back for another 10, 15 years for a cycle to come around and, give me the gains again?
So why are you doing all this?
Property?
Why are you investing in property?
I love it. I still love it. I love that it's tangible. I like, I guess there's an element of risk. It's a challenge. It's always challenging me. It's something I learn. I learn a lot about other people. I just really get a buzz out of seeing those numbers and planning as well, and making sure that, understanding all the different economics at power when an area is about to take off. I love the negotiation. I love selling the deal. That's a big one for me. So why property? The other thing about it that works well is that I can work it around my family. It's something that I can be. I mean, I often do as well. I'll look at realestate.com.au at night, I'm watching TV.
Listen to screen stuff, right? I think most of Australia is sitting there watching Married at First Sight and also on realestate.com.au, right?
I've been known to be on.
I am, by the way, on realestate.com.au, Married at First Sight. I did watch it though. Anyway.
It's so highbrow. I love it. But I'll be looking at Gumtree and I'll put in a search, vendor finance deals, and all of a sudden I go down this path for the next 3 hours looking at farmland, just because, that's the genre of my interest that night. But it is just something that I find it's malleable and, I really get a buzz.
So how much of, I guess, the why you involve yourself in property as a property investor, and also it sounds like you do it professionally as well, is about making a whole bunch of money so you can do whatever you want to do when you choose not to want to work anymore? Is that a big driver for you?
Oh, it's a huge driver for me, but the difference, I guess, or point of difference that my husband, Greg, and I live is that we're also doing this to live a really good life now. And I'm not talking about just day to day. Last year, we actually travelled for 9 weeks overseas with our family, got 3 sons. So, we had 2 weeks in Thailand, back in Sydney for almost a month, and then in Europe for the next 7. We've been overseas once this year, 2 years. So we've been going overseas about twice a year. I really enjoy travel. I love spending that time with my family, because I do work hard. When it's on, and when it's not, we're hopefully in Croatia.
So it's a mechanism for creating family experiences.
100%.
Now and hopefully into the future, if you get both bits of it right.
Yeah. The terminology is a por qué no los dos is why not both? Why can't you have both? Why can't you live well now and also eat well when you're in retirement? And I try to live with that optimism and the planning for the future as well. So, I'm not reckless about it, but I find it a means to an end, but I'm actually enjoying my life now. And it's also, it anchors me financially as well, knowing that when the market is a little bit softer, but I do have so much equity in some of those properties that I've got that confidence behind me that if I had to sell something, I've got it. Yeah,
and this sort of purpose and what you're looking to get out of the property now and into the future, is this like a bit of a beacon, right? Do you need to keep realigning yourself back to it, or is that just happening in the background and you don't need to assess yourself against these goals, or you don't connect the two? Because a lot of people they connect. They've got to get up every morning and realign their thinking after 8 hours of sleep about why they're doing what they're doing today, because I'm trying to get this. Are you that deliberate, or is it a bit softer?
I am probably deliberate. I've always got a goal in mind. I've got, whiteboards, and I write, I have a word on it, and that's my focus for the week. Or when I'm looking at real estate at night while I'm watching Married at First Sight, I might be looking at, flights to Europe. But so the question is, am I always keeping an eye on the goal? And that to me at the moment, yes, I am very much so, because I wanted to do a various development, but do like phase A, B, C, and at the moment I'm focused on that first one. So I want to get that done by Christmas.
So what's your process for goal setting? Do you think about something, write it down, revisit all the time, or do you do it every now and then, or is there some place you do it, or a particular time you do it? How do you go? What's that journey like for you?
Greg and I are very, very goal-focused people. So Monday morning meetings, and it usually involves a coffee shop. We work in business together.
Okay.
So everyone goes, oh, don't you guys ever work? But it's actually, we are talking about work. We are talking about business goals as well as life goals. And we cover that off every week religiously, and we actually do stick to an agenda. So whilst that might kind of sound boring, it's what we both are driven by and we both love. So we don't lose sight of that, and we sort of work out what the week's going to look like. Am I chasing the town planner? Have you found out what the broker has said? There's that, obviously our personal stuff, which is obviously property related. And then we talk about our client base as well, and then how we're working for them.
How do you go about separating property, whether it's your personal stuff or what you're doing as a service for other people, and the other part of your life? So is it an easy balance, or does it sort of blur in together? You just sort of draw a line and go, okay, let's talk about kids now and schools and whatever else, or is it sort of, it just happens? It's an easy transition for you to shift between conversations.
Nothing's easy. No. So I understand you. I guess we do also do that. Sit down and look at each other's calendar, right? Like if you're out, then who's going to be there with the kids, and who's doing the pickups and all the rest, and trying to work things around, sporting schedules and all the rest. When it comes to our clients are our priority. I mean, of course, our children are number one. But when it comes but when it comes to working with a client and a client's deals coming to, fruition, everything else stops, and, that becomes the priority and our key interest. So I think if anything, if I had to put it in sequence of order, I think our stuff might come last.
Yeah.
But we certainly pick it up at least once a week.
It's like that with everyone. Get kids absolute priority, family absolute priority. Yeah. It's the same for me, and then the other stuff sort of falls in behind. But as you sort of continue down this journey of wealth creation through property to realise the benefits of it now and in the future, do you look back and go, oh, geez, I got some stuff wrong? Is there any standout mistakes that you can share? Yeah. You can share with us that other people hopefully can avoid? Yeah,
absolutely. You know what? The biggest regret I've ever had is the one I didn't buy. I know people. Actually, there's the one I sold to. There's always those ones. People always regret the houses you sell, but there was a purpose when you sold them. And
it's the one that got away, is it?
The one that got away, and I'll tell you, it was at Terrace in Surrey Hills in Sydney.
Okay.
And we offered $575,000 for it. I think it was like 2009, so those numbers do sound a little vintage. Someone else offered $5,000 less, and the agent said first one in with a signed contract. And I went, I haven't done a pest and billing report on it. Now I know what I know. I probably would have just,
And that property today.
I would own that property today. I would have made a lazy, at least $500,000 sleeping in the last few years.
Yeah. But, it's good to have. This is the experience, right? You need to gather before you can start making these sort of more informed decisions, and probably riskier decisions or more sophisticated decisions like doing developments and all this sort of stuff. But the biggest mistakes I've made investing in property is, or when I look back, I go, I could have bought a lot more stuff back then when I should have, and if I did, this would have happened, right? But I think if you speak to most investors who have been at it for a little while, pretty much everyone says that. I should have done more when I could have, but it's only with the benefits of hindsight you can actually do that. It's
and I see that in other people now. They sit on their hands, or they're a bit nervous, and I understand that when they're new, but people go, I'll wait till the new year, I'll wait till after Christmas, I'll wait till this, I'll wait till the kids are at school, I'll wait till I pay off my home loan, all these different reasons. And I can think, don't. If you can jump, if you've got the finances, I'm here to help you. I hear that amongst my friends. They want to pay off their home loan first. It's like, well, how are you going to go getting that loan when you're 57?
So let's just chat about this really quickly, because so your experience, being in this community of investors, the 5 things that makes good investors, I say number 1 to that point would be decision-making ability, being able to make a decision. The best investors I know will make a decision. You're not always going to get it right, but if you make more decisions which are right than wrong, you could actually make decisions actually get ahead. So one of those 5 points would be you need to be a good decision maker. Yeah. What else is there? What else do you see in successful investors?
I think it's not doing your own due diligence. I mean, obviously you can leverage off other people to help you guide you, but being able to do your due diligence and making sure that you make a decision that you're not just being directed that way because you're being sold to, or you've been speaking to someone at a backyard barbecue and you take advice of somebody that actually doesn't know what they're talking about. I think that's something I see. People really need to be make conscious decisions themselves and make sure they're, not listening to the wrong advice from people who actually haven't got any history there.
Absolutely critical. Yeah. And anything else which you think really crystallises what a good investor is?
I think a good investor, they need to do their own research. I think fundamentally, though, they need to take action. And as you said, that's it. It's a decision making, isn't it? It comes down to it. And just, I think, for me in my portfolio, I've always stick to capital cities or major regional hubs if I'm talking to clients. I try and stick to make understanding what are the infrastructure, what's the amenities, what's going on there, and also the demographics of the location as well. Yeah. Are there young people there? Is it growing as opposed to, just being a retirement village? So
it's pretty important stuff.
Yeah.
And if I was going to sort of add to, from my experience working around and about and knowing a lot of investors, they're always finance focused. They're always ready somehow with their finance to get a deal done. And the good investors I know are also always cash flow focused. So they might be chasing capital growth. Everyone wants to make a buck out of property, but the good ones I know are always having cash flow and capital growth sort of side by side.
Yeah.
You're never ever going to get it perfect, but if you can hold on to a property, you only really lose money in property if you're forced to sell it, right? So the idea is to try and hold on to it as long as possible. Yeah. So get your cash flow right. But that's cool, Joe. It's so it sounds like things have been going all right then for the last 3 years. Yeah. What do you think we'll be chatting about in 3 years' time?
Oh, now you got me. What are we going to be talking about next? I think we're going to be talking about how Brisbane's gone gangbusters.
I hope so.
And
I'm sitting around waiting for it to happen.
So I think it's finally going to be here. We go, here it is. Everyone's been talking about it and it's arrived.
Okay.
So
why is that? Tell me why Brisbane's got to go gangbusters.
Everything, all statistics, economics, everybody I've been listening to and reading about that knows a thing or two about property is pushing that. And I think if had, APRA not gotten squeezy after on the back of Sydney, going crazy in the market itself, I think we would have seen Brisbane take off more. And then obviously everyone, lending's been really tough. People have gotten a bit spooked. And in 3 years from now, I think we're going to see that turning of the tide and Brisbane will grow.
Double-digit growth for Brisbane, please. Let's make it happen. I'll be a happy boy. I've obviously bought a lot of property up in Brisbane on the basis that hopefully at a point in time it's got to go. Or, my research into it, and I use a buyer's agent for the stuff that I do, and there's a lot of buyer's agents active and operating up there, is that the fundamentals would indicate that at a point in time it should be starting to shift north. And, even, there's a lot of high vacancy stuff out in a lot of studios, a lot of apartments built in sort of inner city, which there was a real oversupply, and that's really come back a lot from what I understand in Brisbane now. So, and building housing building approval or building construction approval is down significantly as well. So you're going to start seeing a supply and demand type thing. So let's hope that happens. So what else is going to be happening in 3 years' time? Will Scott Morrison still be the Prime Minister? Probably. We're probably talking about the election, I imagine.
Well, Liberals might be still be in power, but I don't know if he'd be ousted by then by someone else that stabbed him in the
back.
They're
not allowed to. They've put rules in place now. Yes, they've said that on both sides of politics they went, whoever you vote for will be the person that will stay the whole term until there's another election. So they got rid of this backstabbing and throwing people. Okay. So at least we'll have things change obviously, but it would appear that we'll have the same Prime Minister.
Same Prime Minister in 3 years. Can you pencil me in and put me in the calendar and we'll have that conversation?
Let's sort it out. It's good. Nice one. Some European trips, no doubt.
I really want to go to the Maldives.
Okay.
Yeah, there's that, and Tibet.
And Tibet.
Whether I'll get there or not in the next 3 years, I don't know. But
really similar places.
Yeah, we have travelled quite significantly, and because we are travelling with kids, I've also got to be kind of conscious of.
How old are your kids?
5, 10 and 12.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
10 and 12. So five's a good age to travel. It's a very sort of,
they're happy.
Go and see the world.
Yeah. My kids are good travellers, but I think this is property for us. I love what I can see it doing for our children as well. Like their ability to go past a house and go, oh, that needs renovating, or, they can see opportunity in things.
We should have spoke about this last time, I remember. Yeah.
But if I can spark that little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit in them as well, I think that's a good thing.
Well, they're going to end up with a big fat property portfolio to go and blow and sell, and
he's hoping. Not so much to blow, no, but I know I have to I've got some strict regulations in my will, so if one of them kills me, they won't all get the money straight up.
Well, you'll see this appearing in a sort of colonial inquest at some point around the property murders. So anyway, I digress, Joe.
Hoping it's not mine.
No. I'm sure worse things happen, by the way. But thanks for coming on, Joe. That was good fun.
Absolute pleasure.
Nice one. And we'll schedule in 3 years' time, and I'm sure we'll still be at it. So
sounds good. So, look forward to seeing you then.
Thank you. Remember to check out smartpropertyinvestment.com.au if you're not yet subscribing to our daily morning newsletter, so the first to know what's going on in property and property investment right across Australia. smartpropertyinvestment.com.au/subscribe, or just follow us on social media. That's how you like to get your info. Smart Property HQ. If you like what we're doing with these podcasts, and there is now hundreds of them that you can while away your days listening to this mundane, monotone voice of mine, just press the subscribe button wherever you're listening to this right now, and you'll make sure you get every new episode as it comes online. We'll be back again next time. Until then, bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs, and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property, or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.